guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be filming another book recommendations video, and today we're going to be talking about books that all have the age gap trope. Now I feel like a lot of the books that I read just have an age gap, whether that's like a really big age gap or a little age gap, but it's not like the main trope in the book. But I've tried to pick the ones where the age gap is, you know, quite a decent age gap, not just like 5 years or something, like it's a fair few years, and it's one of like the main tropes in there, and like their age is kind of a reason that they don't want to be together for some of them and things like that. So I have, I think, 8 books to recommend to you guys today, but a few like honorable mentions with the other books because they're part of like a series and all the books in the series might be age gap, but I'm only going to talk about one, things like that. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the video because I am very excited to talk about some of these books because age gap is one of my favorite tropes.
Okay, so I have no idea what happened, but my camera was playing up a lot this day that I recorded this, so I don't have the whole first bit of me recommending this book, but Mr. Masters by Swan, one of my favorites. The age gap is quite big. She's 24, 25, and she moves to London from Australia because she is going to be nannying these children, and Mr. Masters, Julian, is like late 30s, almost. He's either 39 or he's 40, like somewhere like that. So it is quite a big age gap. He is a single dad, and Bree moves to London to nanny his kids, but she doesn't know that it's a man that she'll be nannying for. She thinks it's a single mum, and so she gets to the airport and she's looking around for the person that's meant to pick her up. She's looking for this woman, and turns out she meets Mr. Masters, Julian. They do not like each other at first. They do not get along. They're both really attracted to each other, and so he kind of hates her because he's attracted to her and doesn't want anything to happen there, and he's really like sexually frustrated. Eventually, you know, things are gonna happen, but they don't want anything to happen because of the kids and stuff like that. But she's like living in their house in like the back room, and so forced proximity. And yeah, every book in the series is age gap. The second book is Mr. Spencer and the third book is Mr. Garcia, and they all do have age gaps. A lot of T.L. Swan's books do have age gaps. So yeah, I think that's all you guys missed. Now let's get into me talking about the book more.
Anyway, eventually, you know, sexual tension's gonna boil over and things eventually do happen between them, but they kind of agree to keep it like a friends with benefits type of thing. And because of the kids, like Bree has a really good relationship with the kids, and he doesn't want to, you know, damage that by getting involved with her, but like, you know, they can't help their attraction to each other, so they end up, you know, meeting outside of the house, and things go from there, and you know, they start to fall for each other. And it is obviously a single dad, which you guys know I love that trope. And yeah, this book is really good, super cute together. I love this book, so good, and every book in the series is an age gap, like I said. If you're looking for a good age gap series to binge, then this is an amazing one, and I love all of these books, like I said. Continuing with the T.L. Swan, we may as well do the next T.L. Swan book that I have to recommend to you guys today, and that is the Takeover. This is the second book in the Miles High Club series, and like I said, all of these books are age gap, I'm pretty sure, but this is the one I wanted to recommend because it is an age gap where the man is younger and the woman is older. I believe she's in her late 30s or early 40s, and he is like 27, 28, I think. So, and he is super attracted to her, but he like wants her, and he's like, I want you, I don't care how old you are. And she's like, no, like why would you want like an old woman who has like 3 kids? Like she has 3 kids, so it is another single parent one. And so basically they work for competing companies. Like Tristan and his 3 brothers own a media company, and she owns like their competitive company, but her company's kind of going down the drain, and he wants to, what he does is he takes over companies and like builds them back up, and he wants to take over her company, but it was her late husband's company and he passed away, and she doesn't want to, you know, give it up. But Tristan is kind of very determined, but they end up going on this business trip together or something, and obviously he's wanting to pursue her, but she's kind of like, no, like why would you want me? And eventually things do happen, and this book is hilarious. Like the kids in this book are so freaking funny. Like they do not like Tristan at all, but they're hilarious with him, and it was like I was laughing so much while I was reading this. I love this one, and if you're looking for an age gap where the woman is older, this is definitely an amazing one. And like I said, this is the second book in a series. They're all companion novels about the 4 brothers, and I'm pretty sure all of them are age gap. The next book is one that I feel like everybody's read, but I just had to include it in this video because it is an iconic book, and that is Birthday Girl by Penelope. This is one of my favorite books by her. I love it so much, and this is about Pike and Jordan, and of course it's an age gap, but there's another forbidden aspect where he is her ex-boyfriend's dad. And this was actually the first like taboo book that I read, like taboo forbidden book, and so it was like crazy to me that she was like getting with her ex's dad, like what the heck. But now I've read so many like taboo books, this is like nothing compared to some of the things that I've read. And so this one is of course an age gap. She is 19 and he is 38, I believe. So it is quite a big age gap, but their chemistry and the tension between them is literally everything. Is a slow burn. It's so good. So basically Jordan and her boyfriend, who is, there's no cheating in this book, I just want to say that before I get started. Caleb and her boyfriend Caleb, I believe his name is, get like kicked out of their apartment or something, and so Pike offers his house for them to stay out with him. He has like a spare room, like they can move in. Caleb does not have a good relationship with his dad because of reasons that you'll find out when you read the book. And so it's kind of like awkward, but like all they have to do, they can say they save up money, but they just have to help around the house, you know, like do like some garden work and like the dishes, cook once a week, things like that, just help around. But Caleb is kind of awful. He just kind of is super lazy. He wants to party with his friends, so Jordan kind of ends up doing basically everything and gets really frustrated with him, and they end up breaking up, and then Jordan ends up staying with Pike still, and then obviously things eventually do happen between them, and the sexual tension between them, the chemistry, just everything. Like you can see that they want each other so badly, but obviously like nothing can happen, and then eventually it happens and they fall for each other, and it's so cute and I'm obsessed. I love this book. The spice, phenomenal. Penelope Douglas writes some of the best spice I think I've ever read. I love it so much and perfect for an age gap. And the next book is also a ex-boyfriend's dad book, and that is Praise by Sarah Kate. I read this one recently. It's the first book in the Scandalous Players Club series, and I love this series. It's so good. And this book is an age gap. Like I said, I believe she's 20 something and he's, I think she's either 21 or 22, and he's like late 30s, and her ex's dad, and basically her and her boyfriend broke up, but they had like this payment for something that his dad ends up having, and so her ex-boyfriend doesn't have a good relationship with her with his dad, so he doesn't want to go get it. He's like, if you want the money, you go get it. And so Charlie ends up going to Emerson's house, who is the dad, to get the money, and something happens while they're there. Don't want to spoil anything, but basically he is a very dominant man, and she may or may not have a praise kink, hence the name Praise. And so he owns this club, the Scandalous Players Club, with his friends, which is basically, it was a dating app where you could match with people who have the same like kinks as you, and then it obviously expanded and turned into a kind of like sex club type of thing where you can, you know, go find people that have the same kinks as you can watch people, you can, you know, they have like rooms that you can like, you know, sleep with people in, everything like that. And so he owns this club, but she goes there to get this money and something happens, and anyway, she ends up becoming his assistant, so it's kind of workplace romance as well, and they're super attracted to each other, and eventually things happen. There is an aspect of like I said, he's very dominant, and it's kind of a little bit of a dominant submissive relationship, so there's that aspect in there as well, and he kind of teaches her things, and I love it. The spice, phenomenal. And yeah, I'm pretty sure the second book in this series is also an age gap, so read the whole series. Eyes on Me, give me more of the next 2 books, and then Mercy comes out in August, I think, which I'm so excited for, and they all follow like the owners of this club. It's just so good. Love this one. Then we have Torn and Tied by Carrie and Cole. Both these books are obviously age gap. I believe that they're both like about the same age gap. Like the female MCs are both about 19-20, and then the male MCs are like late 30s, mid to late 30s, so there is obviously quite a big age gap. Let's start with Torn. That's the first book in the series. They're both part of a series of companion novels. Torn is about Tornin and Kenzie, and Tornin is her dad's best friend and kind of her, I wouldn't say he's her godfather, but he's basically been like an uncle figure in her life ever since she was younger, because her parents had her very young and Tor was their best friend, and so they grew up, she like grew up with him being like her uncle when she was younger, but then she kind of developed feelings for him as she got older, and they kind of just turned into like best friends. And then obviously that slowly turns into more, but it is quite forbidden. Like he doesn't want to, you know, go against his best friend, and she doesn't want to upset her dad, but she kind of wants Tor and she will go after what she wants. Like it's what her mum has always told her to do, and you should follow your heart. And so eventually, you know, tension boils over, things happen, and they eventually, you know, fall for each other. And yeah, it is obviously a little bit on the like the taboo forbidden side, besides the age gap, because obviously it's her dad's best friend, but kind of like uncle figure type thing. So if you don't like that stuff, then don't read it. But there is flashbacks to like when she was growing up and things like that, and you kind of can see their relationship like change over the years. And I really enjoyed this one. I love Carrie Ann Cole's writing. It's really easy to read. And yeah, Tide is the second book in this series, so it follows Tyler, who is Torn from the first book's brother, and this one is definitely like a broken hero type of book, and I love that. And so basically he was in this big accident when he was younger, and he kind of isolated himself because of that, because he has all these scars all over his body and his face, and he's kind of, you know, isolated himself because he used to get, you know, bullied, and he was kind of like the freak of the town, and he also doesn't speak anymore because of this. And so he lives in the woods, and he ends up one day hearing this like girl in need of help, and she basically was kidnapped when she was like 5 or 6 years old and has been held captive by this man, and she is like in the woods, and he ends up saving her, killing her kidnapper. And Holly, the main girl, she is like obsessed with fairy tales, because ever since she was kidnapped she only had her fairy tales to like, you know, kind of keep her company while she was down there with her kidnapper. And so she thinks that Tyler is this hero, her knight in shining armor, coming to save the day. And anyway, I believe she's about 15 when Tyler saves her, and then you fast forward a couple of years later, and she's kind of, you know, living in this facility where they help you get your life back on track after something traumatic has happened to you, because obviously she hasn't grown up in society. She doesn't really know how to function like a normal person, and she doesn't know about, you know, technology and like all these things, and how to like, you know, live her life. And so this place helps people in her situation, but she is like has never forgot about Tyler, and she really wants to find him. And so, you know, they end up finding each other and helping each other heal, and it's literally beautiful. I love this book. It's one of my favorite books ever, and it's so good. And like I said, of course, age gap. The next book that I'm going to be recommending to you guys today is Voya by Fiona Nicole. This is the first book in the Voya series, and I believe all of these books, except maybe 1 or 2, are age gap. So if you're looking for a few age gap books, I know the last 2 are definitely age gap, and then this one's age gap, but the other 3 I'm not too sure. But I love this series. It's so good, and it basically follows this sex club type of thing where you can go and you can essentially watch live porn. That's the only way I can really describe it. Like there's like 2 rooms with like one-way glass so you can see in, but the people performing on the other side can't see into your room, and you sit in the room and you can either go by yourself, with a partner, with more than one person, and do whatever you want in that room while you're watching whatever you want on essentially like the TV, but it's live people performing, and you get to choose what they do and what happens, how many people, obviously things like that. And the whole series kind of centers around this club, and you get to see a bunch of different people that either work at the club, own the club, just go to the club, or things like that. So the first book in the series is Voya, and this follows Callum and Oakland. It's been a while since I read this book, but I know it's student teacher, and Oakland is really struggling for money. She just started college, she's 19, and I believe Callum is 35, maybe mid-30s, and she ends up, her best friend ends up getting her, like her best friend, her uncle owns this club, and so she's like, maybe you should work at the club, you know, it's really good money and stuff like that. And so she ends up getting a job at this club so she can help pay for her college because she's really struggling, and she ends up working there. And one day Callum ends up going in and watching her, and Callum has been through a lot, he's got a lot of trauma, and so he likes to go to this club as like a form of like escapism. And so he goes there and he ends up watching Oakland one day, and he's like obsessed, and I'm pretty sure he goes back a few times to watch her, and then he walks into his class at, he's a professor at the college, and walks in and sees her sitting in his class. So they kind of like, he kind of has this attraction to her before he knows that he's her student, and walks into the class and sees her and he's like, oh shit, that's the girl I've been obsessed with for the past couple of weeks, like what the heck, she's my student. And obviously Oakland doesn't know that he has been, you know, watching her. She can't see into the room and things like that, and so, but she's like obviously attracted to him, like he's a very attractive man. Her teacher, they end up, I think, spending a bit of time together one-on-one for like help with a project or something, and eventually, you know, she's gonna find out that he's been watching her, and things kind of go from there. This one's really good, and I love pretty much every book in this series is so good, and like I said, they're all age gap except maybe one or two, so I definitely recommend this whole series. It's phenomenal. The last book that I'm going to be recommending today is Second Semester by QB Tyler. I love QB Tyler. She writes a lot of age gaps. Love Unexpected and Unconditional are also two of my favorite books by her that are age gap, and they're quite forbidden. Love Unexpected is quite a big age gap, I believe. It's like 19, she's 19 and he's 40, so if you want to read that one, I recommended that in a taboo forbidden romance Rex video, so I'm not going to talk about that one today, but that is quite a big age gap, so if you want to read that, go for it. It is forbidden though, stepfather, stepdaughter, not everyone's cup of tea. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about Second Semester, which is the second book in her little mini series. They're all quite short. This is only like 100 and a bit pages, I think, but it is an age gap, and it is dad's best friend. So Serena, the main girl, ends up getting with her dad's best friend Landon, who she's like known a lot most of her life, and she ends up getting a like internship at the law firm that her dad works at, and Landon works there as well, and they're kind of seeing each other. There's obviously all this tension, chemistry, things like that, and things eventually happen. She is like the innocent like virgin who would never do something like this, and you know, then Landon kind of ends up bringing her out of her shell a little bit and helping her become more confident in herself, which we love. And yeah, there is an age gap. She's like 22 and he's like late 30s, as most of these are, and obviously it is forbidden because it's her dad's best friend who, you know, he trusts, and so that's obviously kind of gonna blow up. But like I said, it's quite short. Spice is phenomenal. QB Tyler, one of my favorite authors, and yeah, I just really love this book, and it's a really good age gap novel. So yeah, that is the last book that I have to recommend to you guys today. If you guys have any other age gap recs, let me know in the comments, because I love reading age gaps. So yeah, those are all the books that I've got to recommend to you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of the age gap recs that I had, and I hope you go and read them because they're all so good. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.